Welcome to the Nutritious and Delicious podcast with me, Bethany. My mission is to support busy parents all over the world to learn time management while taking care of your nutritional, physical, and mental health. After all, a healthy family starts with a healthy parent. So I'm super excited here today. I have Shelby with me here. And Shelby St. Clair is actually somebody that has been growing a business for 9 years from the ground up. And she's been building a team and becoming a multiple six-figure earner while launching her coaching business. The Boss Lady Agency launched in 2017 with one big vision goal in mind, and that is freedom. Shelby wanted to create a business that changed the lives of others while allowing herself to enjoy life with the freedom to do what she wanted, when and where she wanted to. So welcome, Shelby.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so we have a big topic here today, and this is kind of a rare one because Shelby and I actually have very similar stories. We are both young widows and we both have children as well. So I have asked Shelby to come on here today, and I wanted to have her share her story and bring some wisdom to our mommy viewers here that are going through some adversity right now. And she's going to talk about today how she turned her trauma into triumph. So Shelby, I would love for you to give us a bit of your story today, and we will get into some tools and everything that we can talk about here today, back and forth between both of us here.
Awesome. Yeah, my story, I feel, is so wrapped up into just kind of when I stepped into entrepreneurship, which was back in 2012. And it was really when I started self-discovery and learning who I was and what I liked and what I wanted out of life. But in the mix of all that, life just got jumbled up. I got married very young, and I was in a very toxic, abusive relationship. And so from 2012 to 2017, I was going on this journey of launching businesses, growing businesses, creating teams, and really finding success in different areas. But I still wasn't happy. There was this big part of me that just was lost, and that was because of the marriage that I was in. There wasn't a connection to him, a connection to myself on a deeper level. And so when I finally got the courage to say, you know what, this isn't what I want anymore, and I walked away and I got divorced in 2017, that's kind of when everything that I had gone through really started to make sense. It became like this pivotal moment of all of the hardships that I grew up with, and then getting into that marriage and dealing with all of this adversity and starting businesses and having success, but still feeling so unhappy. It was like, what is going on? What is my true purpose and mission here in life? And along the way in 2017, as I'm going through the divorce and trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do next, I actually reconnected with somebody that I had a crush on in high school. He was like the high school jock, and everybody liked him. He was so handsome, had the best personality. In high school, I remember forcing him to kiss me in the hallway, not knowing that he had a girlfriend at the time. But after high school and things, we just lost connection. We went and we did our own thing. And so when we reconnected, it was like this immediate attraction, not just of like who we were, but on such a deeper level of understanding, him going through things in life, me going through things. And so it felt like this real soulmate connection that was created. And quickly our relationship just turned into the thing where I was called it this Pinterest perfect man is what he was. Because you'd look at the quotes and you're like, wow, okay, that's him. Like every single quote you look at, like you are just such an amazing, kind, nurturing guy to everybody that walks into your life. And so we had a really beautiful relationship in 2018. We got married, and then quickly in 2019, in February of 2019, I found out I was pregnant. And it was like the happiest, most joyous moment of life, because now that the bond we had created another life out of it, and we were so excited. And then unexpectedly in July of 2019, when I was 6 months pregnant, he passed away. And it was like the most detrimental moment of my life, because for once it was like I was happy. Yeah. Things were happening. It's like after all I had went through, everything seemed so good. And that was like the moment that everything it became really dark. but it also became really, really light to me because I finally saw things in a really different way. It's like I had to take off the like blinders and the like honeymoon eyes and like really look at life for what it is.
Yeah.
And losing him was so insanely hard because of everything that we had talked about and envisioned. You know, I'm 6 months pregnant. My coaching business is like at this moment of insane momentum and growth, and now everything just feels like it's stopped and it's halted.
Yeah.
What the heck am I supposed to do? Because everything that I had envisioned is now no longer the way that it's meant to be.
I don't know about you, but it's not just sort of going through the motions of losing like a person per se, but also it's like losing the life that you could have had.
Yeah,
so it's like a double
totally
whammy.
Yeah, it was 100% grieving the life that because you get married and then you find out you're pregnant, you're like, oh my gosh, it's all happening. I'm actually happy and things are good. And then it happens and you're like, hold on. So everything I had envisioned and planned and seen is no longer reality. And everything's going to look so totally different. I had so many emotions going through me. I went through the grief cycle 1,000,001 times.
Yeah.
Right? I experienced the denial, like this can't be real. This isn't my life. I was so angry as to the reason why he passed away because, you know, when you come to find out that this person that you created this life with had another side of them that you didn't even necessarily realize because it wasn't seen, you know, there was drugs that took his life and I didn't even know that that was something that he was battling on such an intense level that it got to the point where he couldn't speak out and share what was going on. Instead, it was so hidden that it ended up taking his life. And so I went through that anger, the resentment so hard. That was the one that I probably got stuck in the most with the grief cycle because it was like, why? Why could we be creating this beautiful, happy life, but this is a hidden thing that I had no idea about, though I felt like there was so much, I mean, not that I felt, there was such a deep connection and deep understanding, but there was that part that he felt so, I'm sure ashamed by, that he felt like he had to hide instead of saying like, hey, I'm struggling with this, you know? And that was really hard for me to take on. So I just kept going through the grief cycle. Kept going through it with the whole bargaining, like this can't be my life, things are going to be different, everything's going to be back to normal, and was going into depression and then coming out into acceptance. But through all of that, I had to be really conscious of where I was on an energetic level because I was pregnant. You know, I didn't want my daughter being born and feeling the impact of all the things that I was feeling and her having no understanding of why she's come out and not understand why she was feeling things. You know, babies already come out and they're like, this is a whole new world. What the hell am I doing here? Let alone having that pressure on her energetic system of all of my emotions. So there was so much to process in the moment of like realization and coming to terms and just moving through it. And I just kind of found this way to move through and get to where I am today.
I understand totally. There's like a lot of mom guilt that's involved, and you had a different experience from my own. My own was my boys were 3 and 5 years old when that happened in our life, and you were pregnant. I experienced the other side of it too, where it was sort of the boys, me sort of like, well, this is the beginning of their life, just like you said with your daughter. Like she's this brand new soul coming into this world, and you're kind of like, you know, surprise, this is what the world's really like, you know. And it's like it's hard because it makes you even more of a protective mom, and because my boys were so little and they had no comprehension even when I sort of had to, you know, tell them, it was not only dealing with my side of it but dealing with theirs, and you know, your daughter's had this from sort of day one. You know,
100%. And it's like you become so protective because it's like you understand on an emotional level the effects and what happens, and especially, you know, if you're around other people whose emotions are heightened and who are still going through it and haven't fully processed, and then it's like it can be so confusing for children because at a young age, they don't necessarily know what's going on. Okay, daddy might not be here anymore. He's not around, but what does that really mean? And what does that mean for me? And what does that mean for my life growing up? Like that,
Right.
it's so hard for the kids.
It is, yeah. It's a very different perspective for sure. And I notice myself, I'm way more protective, I think, over their feelings and thoughts around this versus my own. Even though, because I think as moms, we're like the warriors, we're the ones with the battle scars, and we're kind of like shielding our kids as like this Wonder Woman around them, protecting them in this bubble, whether it's like, energy boundaries or anything, like you said, sort of family, friends, and even the comments that people say sometimes, it's like you just want to shelter them from that. And you're kind of like, I know I've done this, you're sort of like, I'm fine, and you're sort of putting these shields to other people, but you're really just trying to protect them. So I kind of wanted to ask you, it'd be really interesting actually, because we have been through very similar things. I'm actually really curious how you sort of found some tools, maybe naturally, or you seek them out yourself, and what you did. And I want to see if any of them align with what kind of I did, or like if was it something that you sought out, or was it just naturally coming to you?
So it definitely, I will say that there's a combination of both, of seeking help and coming across things on my own. So because of the work that I do, I already had that like deep understanding of the energetic system and how things affect us. And so that was why I was really conscious while I was pregnant, but not only while, afterwards as too.
Yeah.
And so I love that you said that us as moms, we have to become these warriors, and like we take on all of the wounds and all of the scars, and we have to protect them. We just put up the walls like, no, I'm fine, I got this, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I really had to acknowledge after she was born was when everything like really hit me, because those 3 months while I was still pregnant, it was like me just kind of going through it and balancing my energy and like full on feeling all the feels. Like that's my first tip is like, when you go through something hard, allow yourself to feel it. Because I did. I allowed myself to go through that grief cycle a million times. I allowed myself to have moments where I like outpoured and cried and just let everything be released from my body. But I didn't let myself stay there.
Yeah.
And that was the most important thing for me, was not staying in those moments of deep, deep darkness and pain and hurt, and moving through them and finding a way out. And so throughout it all, I did get help. I sought therapy and counseling just so that I could express, because sometimes you need that like objective, somebody that's not in the middle of it all, who's also experiencing and feeling all the things to talk to, so that they can just ask questions to help you dive deeper. And so as I did that, and because I did that, after she was born, a lot more rose to the surface of me having really deep understanding and connection to multiple traumas I had experienced throughout my life, which meant that this impact of losing him and becoming a single mom, which was never in my picture of life, became even harder, because it was like all of my trauma and life experiences came like thrown at me the moment she came out of me and was put on my chest. It was like so heavy of like, oh my God, that's the path and the journey that I walked. And here I am now having to be a single mom, which I never wanted to do. And I felt extreme shame for being a single mom, which is crazy, because how amazing are we that we as women can step up and be single mothers and still do all that we need in life. I felt shame because I was so connected to the story and the life that I wanted to raise a family in.
I have goosebumps.
It's so crazy, the things that we can experience and that come to like fruition for us when things happen like this. So as I got hit with all of this trauma and all these experiences, I was like, whoa, like, you know what? I'm a mess. And I need to help myself, because I can't stay here. And because I've always been the person that has always been, I'm fine, I got this, I don't need help. My biggest ego trip was having to ask for help. And the first few months my daughter was born, this child never sleeps. She still is about to be 2 this weekend, and she's a horrible sleeper. And I was over here running my business. I took a week and a half off from work after she was born, and that's it. And I
Wow.
dived right back in, and I refused to ask for help because I was like, no, you know what? If life gave me this, then I'm going to have to run with it, and I'm going to be the best single mom, and I'm just going to do it all myself. Whoa. We can ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help, but I had to release that ego trip from my mind quickly because my parents live so close that it's so easy to be like, hey, mom, dad, like, can I just come? Can I bring her over? I have to do this, that, and the other for work, and I'm having a really hard time with it. But no, Shelby's going to do that. Oh, no, not at first, because she's got to do it all. So she's going to sit here and she's going to feed the baby and she's going to talk to clients and she's going to have an inner meltdown while she's helping other people. And then I realized, how can I actually help other people if I'm not fully helping myself? How can I be the best support for others if I'm not even supporting myself? And so I then had to go through this whole journey of uncovering all my trauma to heal from it and find the light in the situation. So as I did that, I looked back on everything I've experienced in life and really honed in on the loss of my husband. And okay, how can I turn this dark, negative situation of where I feel right now with everything landing on my shoulders into something positive and light and beautiful? And so when the negative thoughts would come of like, wow, this is my life. I'm a single mom. Who's ever going to want me? Like, I have all of this baggage. I've gone through all of this stuff in life. Who's going to ever love me, right? Like, that's one of the things that come up in your mind when you go through something like this. Yeah. Like, how can I find the light in this situation? No, I'm a strong woman. Because I've been able to go through all this and I'm still standing on 2 feet and I still see hope and dreams for my life. And so if there's somebody that is meant to come on this journey with me, they're going to be placed in my path. And I just have to surrender and I have to let it all happen. And so it was like then, taking me back into the grief cycle, thinking back to the loss of my husband. And it was like, okay, how can I find the light in it? Well, then it became this third part and this third tool that I created was, you know what? I can no longer live with him next to me, but he's always going to be in my heart. And I have to be able to move through life with that, knowing that every single experience we had together, every moment, every memory lives on within me, within my heart, within our videos, within our pictures. And so even though he's not here in the physical, he's always here. And like, that's really beautiful to me. And I can remember that and I can hold on to that and I can cherish that rather than having that longing and depressing feeling of how am I supposed to do life because he's not here. Because living and staying in that state can take years off of your life. And it can take so much away from you because you can't see the joy in anything else. And so I refused to do that because how selfish would I have been to let myself stay in that state while raising a child? Because how wrong would that be to not live out my life to the absolute fullest and do it for her all because he's no longer here? And so I just had to, it was like this intense mental shift of just coming to like reality and this light and just moving through life in such a deeper way, which then led me into that deeper healing that I was talking about of really releasing all the trauma I had dealt with and finding a lighter peace in every experience. It's like if I go back to the divorce, well, why did I do that? Why did I get married so young? Oh, well, because I was like longing and needing love. Okay, why did I need that? Go back to the relationship before that. Well, why was I so into that? Go back to my childhood of what I wanted. There was so many connections that led to where I am now that I just had to go so deep and uncover, and it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard, yeah, because it's like you don't want to think about all the things you've gone through and all the things that have hurt you, but they can become this source of power for you.
Exactly.
So you can be like, you know what? I went through all that, but that means that I am this person with all of this knowledge, with all of these lessons, And I can come out of it not thinking of those experiences in a negative way, but in a positive way. And so that's just what the journey that it took me on, which led me to then being able to finally choose myself and choose my happiness, which I couldn't do until I was fully healed. Because I was still so worried. Okay, I'm doing all of this deep inner work on myself. I'm going through all of this. I'm finding the light. I'm living within my heart. I'm moving through the grief cycle in a faster way that's more positive. I'm not getting stuck in the anger, the depression mode. But how do I come out in life and be like, I'm happy, I'm okay, I'm actually good? Because so many other people that are in my life and that were in his life still aren't. And so it was like there was a part of this time as I was going through this healing that I was like, okay, I have to guard my happiness, and I can't like actually say that I'm happy because the person that's asking me how I am isn't happy. So how am I going to say, it was like this really weird thing that I went through too, of them like hiding my happiness and my joy because nobody else was feeling it for themselves. And then I just had to one day choose. I was like, you know what? This is so exhausting. It's so exhausting to hide a part of my life, and that I'm happy, and that I've found somebody who has chosen to walk into our life and who has taken on a big role and is such a leader and impacted our life. Why do I feel the need to hide that? I deserve that. I went through everything and I came out still standing on my 2 feet. I deserve it. And so the last and final thing that I had to do was choose happiness, and choose happiness for myself, and decide that I am worthy of living the life that I dreamed of with him still. Even though he's not here, I still deserve it.
I feel like you're basically telling the story through my mouth. We have so many similarities here. It's unreal. Like, I could just, everything that you're saying, I'm like, yeah, like, I've been there, like, get it. I understand. I know the feeling. There's a few things like I could point out right off the bat was, if anyone is experiencing grief right now, loss of any kind, whether you're going through divorce or, a situation in your life, grief is like waves. It can knock you over real fast, real quick. And then sometimes they're barely there. And it can go from day to day, experience to experience. I don't know about you, but I had probably quite a bit of trauma in a sense after the fact. It was things that would remind me of situations, and I would just snap and break and completely be a mess. And this would be out in public, and my kids would be looking at me like, what's the matter with you, But you have to kind of just go through those experiences at first, I've noticed. And yes, I understand the whole, when people ask, how you're doing and things like that, and you start to sort of heal, you almost feel guilty for healing. And it's almost a feeling of you judging yourself, because that people aren't going to be like, oh, well, you should be feeling this way. Like, people won't say that to you, but it's a feeling like, well, I shouldn't be happy. And you're almost like pushing yourself kind of in this place again. And I can relate that sort of to mom guilt, where like you feel like you should feel a certain way, and it's kind of the opposite, like joyous and happy to have a baby. And if you have depression, anxiety after, it's almost like you're telling yourself you shouldn't be feeling this way, so I'm going to make you feel more shameful about yourself. So I also experienced the same issues around, starting to heal myself on the inner work, and it almost looking abnormal to other people. And then it being like, well, like, is there something wrong with me, or should I be doing this? But it helped me get exactly what you said, to a different place, the same thing that I wanted with somebody else. And letting that person in was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Yeah. It's so hard because you have all of these blocks and all of this resistance towards letting somebody in, because you're feeling all of the feelings of the guilt and worried about what others are going to say or think. But at the same time, it's almost like, because this experience happened to you, And it's so deeply ingrained within your nervous system, within your subconscious, you immediately start worrying, like, what if I have to go through this again? Well,
Yeah.
what if I let somebody in and like I experience loss again? And what if I, and it's so hard to like open yourself up and like give yourself freely and to be like, okay, I'm going to let trust come in and I'm going to trust and believe that the same thing that I've experienced isn't going to happen to me again.
I
And
hear
it's
that.
so hard to do.
I hear this in other people's conversations of relationships all the time. Like, I don't want to let that person in. I've been hurt before, and I can hear it in other people, who have been married and then divorced and things like that too. It's the same notion of, you can't sort of stop your life and to say like, well, that's it, I give up, because you're not going to learn anything about yourself. You're not going to experience anything in life. And that will keep you stuck and stale, and you won't be doing any self-growth whatsoever. If anything, what I usually tell myself internally when I do get those fears come up, is that I've been through it before. I've actually been through worse. So I know I can get past anything. Like, give me the worst thing. I used to say to the universe, like, you think, I always hear that notion of, you're given what you can handle kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, holy moly, like, how much could I typically handle? And I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, when you start to have these sort of feelings come up of fear, of building relationships, whether it's friendships, relationships, romantic relationships, all that, these fears come up in your head because you're like, wait, like, if I get close, I have the chance of losing you. Mm-hmm. Maybe not through a death, but maybe somewhere else. And it's like, you have to keep reminding yourself, the person that came in before was there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I hold on to that too, because I know I have learned massive lessons being with that person, moving through a death from that person, and now having what I actually wanted still is my end result.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. Would you say a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Yeah. I think that is such a beautiful way to look at things, because it can feel, especially I have friends and clients who have gone through divorce, and it's like after the divorce, it feels like everything's lost and everything's gone. And how am I supposed to do anything? Because that was who I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with. And so a divorce is almost like a death in a way, except you could potentially walk face that person again. Mm-hmm. But it feels the same of like you're losing somebody that you had created and planned this entire life with. It, a breakup from a long-term relationship, it all feels like a death in some sort of way, and it like brings so much agony and pain. And then when you go to step into something new, there's so much fear, so much resistance, and it's like you get these like this laser vision to want to like look at every part of that person and pick parts away of like, oh, well, maybe this isn't it because they had that and I like that, and so you don't have it. It's like it's mind-blowing to me, even though I've gone through it now multiple times, of like how our mind can take over and not allow our body to just feel the love and experience things in such a beautiful way, because our mind is like trying to just keep us safe and keep us distant from ourselves, because it's so stuck in the subconscious of every pain that we've experienced and trauma we've experienced, which is why healing has just become such a big part of not only my life, but it just turned and became a big part of my business and what I help other female entrepreneurs work through now.
Definitely. I think you're right with the notion of people looking outwardly. I find it's a lot easier for people to look outward and blame, and, even what's going on right now with everything, for people to look outwardly and say, well, you did this, you did that. The hardest part is actually looking at your role that you've played, because that in your head is like the hardest work ever. And even I think when you do lose somebody, like both you and I did, I still have to go over things in my head like, well, I didn't like how I was in this part of my relationship. How can I improve on that? Even though the person isn't there, it's still things that I'm saying to myself, like, I wouldn't want to bring that into another one. So how can I sort of mold and change myself and have a better experience in my life? Same with the children as well, is that my biggest thing was I wanted happiness so badly. How do I change that for myself first and bring about that and teach it to my children? You know, it doesn't come from a place of me pointing fingers, complaining, and being very pessimistic about the world and why is my situation like this and so situations like this. You know, the other thing I wanted to sort of touch on too was, I don't know if you experienced this after, but when it first happened for me, I think there was so much shock involved that I was almost walking around as if I felt like I was in a movie. It was like I was walking around, I'm almost watching people walk across the street, do their routine thing, and it was almost like that movie, The Truman Show. Have you seen that? And it feels like you're waiting for someone to pop out and be like, okay, cut, like, that's a scene. And you're kind of like, why is everyone still going about their business? Like, the world just ended in your life. And you're kind of like, how do, like, you're trying to find a new path. Like, how am I finding my new path? Like, I feel so lost. And it is probably just a feeling of like a lost soul, possibly. And you kind of watch other people and think like, well, how can they be so happy? And like, look what they have. And, you know, you feel like your whole life is just blown up to smithereens. And you're like, no one sees the damage here? Like, hello. But it's internal, right? So I don't know if you kind of experienced something similar to that as well.
Oh yeah, I remember the night that he passed away, and when they finally put his body on to take him out, and as they're rolling him out of the house past me, I started laughing. And everyone was just kind of looking at me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of looked around, and then I just started bawling, and I was like, is this real?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Is this really happening? Like, no, this is an alternate reality. Like, I'm having a dream right now. This isn't really what's going on. And then I remember a couple weeks after that, when I finally like ventured out of the house and I went to get breakfast with my mom and sister, and we're sitting there, we had just ordered. And again, it was like, I just started laughing, looking around at everybody, like continuing to just live life normally and like be at work and like laughing and cracking jokes as they're like typing things into the register. And then I just started bawling and like, is this real?
It's so weird.
Like,
it's like,
life is literally going on. Like, everyone in this place, and I'm going through something so hard and so emotional. I'm sobbing, and everyone's probably just looking at me and thinking I'm crazy with absolutely no idea of what I'm going through internally. It was like, I remember telling my mom too that I was like, I just kind of want to walk around with a sign on
I was just gonna say that.
I'm like, I just became a widow. Like, my husband just died. Because there were so many moments where it was just little things walking through life, and it would just be complete breakdown.
Yeah.
Because it was like, how is this my freaking reality? How is this happening right now? This literally can't be real. And it took me 2 months to sleep in our bed again. I slept on the couch, like uncomfortable and pregnant, but I could not sleep in bed because that's where I found him. Okay. And there was like, I'd walk in there and it would just be like this eerie feeling of like, no, this isn't our room. This isn't our house. And so I went through this whole phase too of like redoing the entire house. And like changing out pictures and just redoing everything. So everything felt different. It was just, I totally went through it.
I have to laugh. I'm not laughing at you. It's because I can understand what you're saying. Like, exactly in those words, I was like, I almost feel like when I'm talking to people or when I was out in public, I felt like I had a flashy sign above my head, or I was talking to people and there was like a sticker there, like, and it just had what happened to me. And I just felt like I was just walking, like flashing, like construction zone sign or something. And it was almost like I didn't want people to read it. So it was kind of just like invisibly, I wouldn't be like, go away, you know, like get rid of it. Or the other one, yeah, the laughing, I didn't experience that. I can understand it though. It's like, because I think you're in such a state of shock that you're like, no, this is like not reality. Like, hang on a minute. Like, I'm going to wake up any second now. And it's almost like a weird reaction to that. It's not obviously funny. And I know people have laughed at funerals and stuff, and people kind of, again, because the social norm, you're not supposed to do that. But it's a common thing for people
yeah, it's like a coping mechanism.
It is, for sure. When you said about the whole changing everything, I repainted my entire house, and I have friends help me with that. So again, and I still remember like looking at my walls and being like, okay, everything's completely changed. I've moved absolutely everything from 3 floors, and it still feels the same. Like, it drove me almost insane, where I started like buying things, switching things up, and you know, my walls look different, but it's almost like I felt like my walls were like talking to me and telling me stories. And I'm like, I'm going a little bit insane here. But it was because I was trying to do the inner work, and the inner walls were inside of me being like, hey, like, you try and go this way, and like, I'm going to, you know, block you here. And now you've got this other fear over here. So it took me a while to be okay being in the house that we had got together. And it did, because I think a lot of it had to change within me first. And I feel so much better now. I'm still within the house. But it was a lot of growth. And I think it took a couple of years for me to actually be okay with that.
Yeah, it does. It's like, because like you said, it's like that battle, that internal battle of like, okay, well, I'm changing things on the outside, but why does everything still feel the same?
Yeah.
Because it's that deeper work that we have to do to just like really come to a point of understanding the path that we've walked and the things that we've experienced and the trauma that we now hold. And okay, how can I turn this into a situation that's going to align me with my purpose and get me to a place where I can wake up every day and I can be happy and I can live out the life of my dreams and I can do all the things that I envisioned, even though life doesn't look exactly like I wanted it to.
Right. I love that. So I want to talk a little bit more about the fact that I think both of us have used what's happened in our personal experience towards our business and helping other women. And I think that's so massively powerful. How are you using that now and like helping the women in your life and your community?
Yeah, and I think that it's so wild of how much we can actually take the things that we've gone through and allow them to be a source of like rising us up to who we're meant to be in this life. And so when I launched my business back in 2017, I was strictly for business coaching. And I knew that I was really great at leading people to their destination of where they wanted to go. You know, I could see what they were experiencing, what was out of alignment with their business, how they weren't showing up, and I could give them really strategic systems and processes to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. But along the way, what I really started noticing was how much life impacted their business and how much things they had gone through were holding them back from getting to where they wanted. So while I was helping people reach parts of success that they wanted, they weren't getting to this like end zone where they wanted to really thrive in because there was a resistance and something holding them back. But I didn't even recognize the connection until I went through it myself. So even though I was doing a lot of business coaching and I had filtered in the life coaching and helped them move through things, it wasn't until I went through this experience myself and went through the deep dive of healing that I understood just how much women need to heal, because every one of us in life experience things that hold weight on us, that become a part of our nervous system, that become a part of our subconscious. And so once I finally went through it myself and really understood the connection and the disconnection between me and my business and everything that I went through, I was like, this is it. This is the missing piece. This is what women need to really get to the next moment in their life. And so I began intertwining healing work within my business coaching. And instead of calling myself a business coach, I started calling myself a soul alignment coach, because all the work that I do is so much deeper. It really goes into the soul of a person and helps you connect and see what parts of your life you experience trauma in and how it plays out in various forms, not only in your own life, relationships, friendships, family, things like that, but in your business as well. And so now as I've been doing that for the past year and a half, I've been able to really, really deeply understand just how much of everything we go through is holding us back from our true purpose and from creating success in our business. So, it could be something when we were bullied in middle school and we think that, okay, whatever, we've told ourselves, oh, okay, that was middle school. It doesn't even matter. Who cares now? I have my own business. I'm doing this. But the underlying cause and effect of that bullying means that we're now afraid to fully show up as our vulnerable self in our business because we're afraid that we're going to be bullied for having our own business and speaking out and sharing a message with the world. So we hold back and we don't fully share, and we just kind of like go in this circle, but not fully connecting with the people that we're meant to help with the businesses that we create. And so that's just the work that I do now, of helping women dive deeper and go on this healing journey of uncovering where the trauma, the fear, and the pain lies, and turning all of those situations that they've experienced in their life into this powerhouse for them that lets them rise, that they are able to answer their calling and step into their purpose and fully create the life of their dreams, because they finally understand and see the connection of why they've felt held back and why they had the limiting beliefs, why they weren't fully confident. And so it's this beautiful now shift that happened through all of this that I had to go through, which really helped me uncover my true purpose. It's like I understood that prior to meeting him, and there were parts of it with me intertwining the business and life coaching, but it was nothing like it is now from me experiencing my own loss in such a deep, impactful way.
You probably hear the same fears and tapes people are saying, but in a different light, for sure. And I can actually see as well, like for your business side of it, women playing small, because a lot of the times, like I deal with clients too, where, they've had very hard childhoods too, and they didn't feel like they had a voice. That can also play into women playing small in their businesses, gender roles, all that stuff too, right? Like it's a way to try and get women to feel empowered, and I love it. And I think you're going to do amazing things, and I'm rooting for you. I really am.
Thank you.
How can women actually get connected with you here, Shelby?
So I'm always on Instagram, but as we know, social media can end in a day. So you can follow me over there. My handle is The Boss Lady Agency, but you can also find me on their website at thebosslady.com. And on there, you can sign up for a complimentary ascension call, which is a 30-minute call where we just kind of uncover and diving into parts of what might be holding you back so that you can truly ascend into life and business mastery. And then obviously on my website, you can sign up for my email list so we can always stay in contact. But my journey, I share the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great on my stories, on my Facebook, all the places. Everything's The Boss Lady Agency. And I'm just here to have conversations, create relationships, and help support women in any way I can. So if there is something that has come up for you, some thought, some feeling, reach out. I'm here to support you in any way I can.
The link here for Shelby for the 30-minute complimentary call here. So I really appreciate you coming on here today and sharing your story. I know it's always hard to do, talking from personal experience, but just to know that you are a survivor, a warrior, and you're doing an amazing job being a mom to your little daughter here. So I appreciate you coming on here, Shelby, today.